Hi everybody, it's Tamara from Prairie Town Girl here on Etc. Eyes, and I am getting started on my next design team project for Little Birdie Crafts. And I wanted to use this crackle medium that I got, and also this gesso, and maybe a few other things too. We'll see as we go along. I have a basic idea of what I want to do, but as usual, I'm not 100% sure how it's all going to play out. But I've been doing lots of tests because I'm just using this, I cut up pieces of this, I don't know what you call it. It was like a big tester of paint samples, and so I glued two pieces of this together to make a front and a back of my journal cover. And so far all I've done is I've put the gesso on to try to get rid of that shiny feel to the cardboard, and tone down some of the printing on it as well, of course. So that part has been done so far. And then while I was doing that, I was playing around with my crackle, trying to figure out what colors I want to use, what paints I want to use. It works awesome with these chalk paints, which are also from Little Birdie Crafts. Look at those great big huge cracks. I hope you can see that. It looks really cool. And then I wanted to try it with white, and I tried it just with gesso underneath, with paint underneath, with all different combinations. I could just use up my whole bottle probably just testing. But what I'd really like to try to do is to try to get white on white. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're going to try. So, oh, there's another little test I made. So what I'm going to do to start with is, these are my outside pieces for my cover. I'm just going to, now that I've got the gesso down, I'm going to add a layer of white paint. Let me see if this has a, nope. So I'm just going to lay that down and paint it on, and then we have to let that dry. So that's the one thing with crackle medium. It's really cool, and you get some really neat effects, but you have to be very patient because there's lots of, well, there's 3 layers involved, right? 4 if you're going to start with the gesso, and the gesso is really just a primer. And it makes the paint stick a little bit better to your piece. But you do your base coat, let that dry, crackle medium, let that dry, and if you put on a really thick coat and you want really big cracks, then it might take a little bit longer to dry, and then you put your top layer on top, and then of course you have to let that dry too. So I'm starting this all now, and it's going to take me a few days to get this project completed, but once it's done, I think it's going to look really cool, and it'll be really worth all the effort. So to start, let's just go ahead and put the paint down. Okay, easy peasy. Once that dries, I'll be back and we will do our next layer. Okay, well, my paint dried super duper fast, so I'm going to get one more layer in tonight, and I know the light is fading and so it's a little dark here right now, but I just want to get one more layer so I don't have to wait too much longer. And I thought I should just mention, I'm not doing the inside of my covers because I have another plan for that. Hopefully it'll all work out, but they'll be covered in fabric, so you don't even really need to do this cover them at all, but my fabric is white, so I did put a layer of gesso down just to, again, tone down the print on the cardboard. But what we're going to do now is the crackle medium, and I want some nice big cracks to happen. And let's see here, so this one, no, I think I'm going to use this one. Doesn't really matter. I think this one is going to be the front cover. This one's going to be the back. And the only reason that matters is because I do know what I want to put on the front cover. I'll see if I'm able to shift it over here without spilling everything. This is going to be the idea. Oh, it's a lot. You know how I've told you guys, like when you're working on your junk journal and you think you're done, like just throw one more thing on there. Well, what I'm learning by working with Little Birdie Crafts and going on their blog is that actually what you should do is throw about 10 things more on there. So their projects on their blog are just really beautiful, and they are layers and layers and layers of just stuff, and it all comes together beautifully. And so I'm trying to push myself to add more layers and add more stuff. And so this is what I'm planning. And so I'm just showing you so that you know I don't need to put the crackle in the middle, because you're not going to see it anyways. I don't want to waste it. It's going to be underneath all of this beautiful stuff. So I really mostly just need to go around the edges on the front cover. On the back, I'll do the whole thing because I'm not sure. I don't think I'm going to put a lot of stuff on the back. I haven't really thought about it yet though, so I might change my mind. But for now, we're going to do around the edge on the cover, and we'll do the whole back. So here we go. All right, it's always an experiment with crackle. You never know what you're going to get till the third layer. And then yeah, all over this one. Okay, it's the next day, and I had kind of a stressful day at work today, so I'm really looking forward to seeing if this works. I want to see some big crackles on here, so I'm ready to just roll and see what happens. I'm gonna go back in with some more white paint and see if I can get a white on white effect, and then I might rub in some color after. But let's just see if I can get a white on white crackle first. And for me, I'm okay if there's some streaking with from the paintbrush and that type of thing. It's not bad, but I don't mind for this project for there to be a little bit of texture. Let's see. Doesn't usually happen immediately, but it's fun just to try to watch it happen in action. So we won't really see, oh, I can see it starting, it's starting. We won't really see it until it fully dries. So let's let this dry a little bit, and we'll see what we get. Okay, it hasn't been very long, but I can already tell what's happening here. So on the back, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but it's not bad. I'm getting some really good texture, and there's a lot of crackle happening. It's very subtle, of course, because it's white on white, but on the cover, it's super subtle. And if I were making this for myself, I'd be probably perfectly happy with that. But because this is a design team project for Little Birdie Crafts, I know that that's not enough. If you go on their blog and check out all the projects there, you'll see the projects are sort of like extra. Like they're above and beyond the norm. So I need more. I need more definition in the cracks, and I need to be able to highlight them better. So I'm going to pull out this sandstone colored chalk paint from Little Birdie Crafts. And now, do I want to, I think I'm just going to put a little bit in my little cup here. So I want this to be super, well, I want it to be subtle, but not. Just want to go in again around those edges and have something in the background that when the cracks come out, that you're able to really see them. I'll just have to put a really thick layer of the white paint on, on top of it in order to cover the color. And I think this will all work out because, I mean, I'm going for a shabby chic look, and shabby chic is ultimately pretty shabby. So I think this is going to be a happy accident. Okay, I think that'll be enough. The only thing I'll caution you with is if you are like me, you're just using some scrap card. I've put a lot of layers of paint on here already, and so it's buckling a tiny bit, but when it's drying, I'll just stick something down on top of it, and it should keep it not too bad a shape. But just something to keep in mind with the layers of paint that you're putting on. Alright, so it looks really shabby now, but let's try that. And I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to come back with the crackle, and then I'm going to go over it again with the paint. I'll just show you the end result. I won't make you watch all those layers again. So I'll be back, hopefully with a really nice surprise. Okay, I am back, and I am so happy with how this turned out. I don't think you can see on camera how great it looks. It's got lots of texture, and that chalk paint is just sort of peeking through, and there's some cracks, and it's really just that nice shabby chic kind of look. So let's take it to the next level. I want to distress my edges. And this used to be a really big thing like about 10 years ago. Everything you saw had distressed edges. I don't know if people do this anymore, but I'm just using my little tool here to rough up the edge. If you don't have a tool, you can use sandpaper or a craft knife or something like that. It's just to soften it up and get it a little bit sort of frayed, I guess is the right word. And you just do as much or as little as you want. This will sort of start to make some of that paint flake off, but it's okay. It's all worth it. Okay, so that's pretty subtle, so I want to highlight that soft edge. So I'm just going to use a little bit more of this taupey colored chalk paint. And I'm just using a cotton swab, and I'm going to lightly go around the edge. Don't worry if you accidentally smudge like I did on the inside cover, because that's all going to be covered. But I am going to go around that long edge as well. And really, this is just sort of an alternative to using your ink pad. It's fun to get a little bit of a different color than what you have on your ink, on your pads, your ink pads. And it's a little bit more subtle. Okay, so I'm just going to do the other one. I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll get back to the fun part. We're going to add some decoration to the front cover. I'll be right back. Okay, so it's all dried up. Nice thing with the chalk paint is that it dries super quick. And I should just show you really quickly, this is what you get from Little Birdie Crafts when you order the chalk paint. It's 6 colors. This is the muted, it's more pastel type colors. And then they also have these this other set, which is called Vibrant, which I will have to use in a different project, not for this project today. But yeah, so that's what, and I'm not sure what the price is, but they usually have like a really good sale on, so head over there and check that out. So what else are we going to do? we're going to start to decorate. And I have a few other little things here that I got in my design team parcel. We've got this package of elements, and you get loads and loads and loads of stuff in here. I didn't count out how many pieces are in here, but it's, oh, here it says 22 designs times 2. So there's lots of stuff in there to play with, and some of it has sparkle and that kind of thing, so that's fun. And then I'm going to use these little handmade flowers as well on the front. I think they're so cute. They're so tiny. And what do you get? You get 60 pieces in this little package, and I know I've been on the website recently and they're a really, really good deal. And I've also got some of my own stuff I'm going to use. I'm going to use some of these fun rhinestones and some other things. So I've already showed you, this is sort of the basic idea that I want to go with. So this is from a napkin that I cut out. See if I can keep it sort of intact so I remember where I want everything to go. This is just a French book page, so I'm just going to use some decoupage glue and get that on there. And I'm using a matte finish, so I could just put it right on the book cover itself, but I want to be careful not to get it too much outside of my background piece here. And there's lots of things you could do with this to make it your own. You could use pattern paper, you could ink the edges of your book page. You don't have to use a book page. Just make it your own and do what you like, as usual. That's what I always try to encourage you guys to do. I don't want anybody to feel like they have to do exactly like I do. I just am here to inspire you to try some new things, that's all. So I think I just have to go around the edges a little bit here. And in fact, I should mention that this project was inspired by something I saw on the internet, and I'm going to leave a link in the description box below. I can't remember off the top of my head where I saw it. I saw it on Pinterest, but then the web page itself, I think it's like an online magazine for paper crafting, that kind of thing. But I will definitely leave the link below, because I always like to share with you what I'm inspired by. So I'm not going to put this down next, but I do sort of want to get a feel for where I want these little guys to go behind. Yeah, I think something like that. Now, because these are chipboard, I'm not sure if the decoupage glue is going to be strong enough. So let's get out the wet glue. And for this one, I want it to sort of layer in, so I think I'm going to want a little bit on top and a little bit underneath. See here. I think I'll do my birds next, and I'll go back to my decoupage glue. And this I'll do right on the cover itself. I think that's easier. Okay, so you just gently want to go over it to make sure it's all down You could probably see there I had a bit of trouble with the tail because, again, my fingers are so sticky that it pulled a little bit up, but I just pieced it back together and it looks fine. Nobody would ever know. I'm the only one who'll know, and you. And you'll notice that some of my napkin is going over the edge, and that's okay too because, well, you can either just wrap it right around or you can cut that off. I'll just wrap it to keep it secure. Whoops, and there goes the other tail. There we go. So if I wanted to really go to town, I could use some sparkle decoupage glue and go over top of it some more, but I feel like these little cutouts that we're adding are going to add a lot of that sparkle and shine. So let's just go ahead and add a few more pieces. Just love these rhinestones. I think they're so gorgeous. And they go nicely with these little birds. I'm just placing everything, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to glue it all down. I just want to see what I need over here. And yeah, it's just kind of random. I'm not putting a whole lot of thought into this. And then at the bottom here, I'm going to add this little guy. This is just a scrap piece of fabric, and I just stamped right on it with some little alphabet stamps, and that's going to go. Let's see if that'll come back. There we go. That's just going to go right there. Perfect. So I am going to glue all that down, and my battery is just about out. So we'll see how long it'll last. And then once our cover is put together, we're going to go ahead and start to work on the spine. And I don't know if I've shown you yet what we're going to put inside. This is going to be a book for it's just going to be all handmade papers. That's what's going inside. So it'll be really pretty and very shabby chic. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, I think that is my cover. I might need to add a little more paint around the edge or something like that to give it a little bit more definition, but that is pretty much the cover. So I'm just going to let those elements dry because I used that wet glue and I don't want it to move around while I'm working with it. But I'll show you what you can work on while you're letting that dry. So this is what I made for my spine. It's just a piece of fabric that when I wrap it around, covers my papers, and it's going to sit like that. And then we're going to pull these together with some external ribbon. But just so you can see the size. So I'm not pulling the spine really tight. I'm just letting it sort of wrap loosely around. And you don't have to do this step if you don't want. If you want a completely exposed spine, you can just leave it so your signatures will show. That's totally fine. But if you want to follow along, I ripped the cotton, and then I also I didn't want this back side to show, so I made a piece to cover the spine that will show on the outside. So that's along the inside section. Sorry about that. My memory card ran out just before my battery died. So I was just about to say that just for fun, I put a doily on the inside of mine, but that's really just for decoration. And I didn't glue it. I used my Stitch Witchery or Wonder Under or whatever you want. It's a fusible tape, basically. So that's what I used to hold that in place. So we are going to move on to sewing the signatures into this fabric part of the cover, and then once they're in, we're going to glue our, or actually I think I'm going to use this stuff again. We're going to adhere the covers to the fabric. But first we need to put our signatures in. So, oh, the other thing I looked at while my battery was charging was that the inspiration comes from clothpaperscissors.com, and you'll find lots of great directions there. Because what we're going to do is we're going to sew the signatures in, but we're also going to include some bits of decorative ribbon to kind of hold everything in place. So for your stitch pattern, what I did was I came from the top and the bottom. Let's see here, how much is that? It's about 3/4 of an inch from the top and the bottom. Found the center, and I marked a line on either side of my decorative ribbon, and so there's going to be a hole here, 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 and then you're going to do the same in the other 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 spots, or however many you want. So you're just going to have a hole on either side of your ribbon so that your thread can come around and hold it down. You'll see. Hopefully this will all work out and you'll see it in action. If you really want to see sort of a step-by-step, go to the clothpaperscissors.com website, and they've got some good graphics there. No videos though, unfortunately. But anyway, so what I did was I used my little template, and I've already put some holes in my signatures. I'm not going to put holes in my fabric though, because I think the holes will be too big. And I'm using a nice sharp needle, so I think I should be able to secure my thread with that, and it should go through all the fabric easily. I've got a little knot happening. There we go. So to start, oh, I should also mention I gave myself a little bit of a guide. I have from my sewing kit, I have a pen like this. You can mark it on fabric, and it just takes some heat with an iron to overtop that, and it'll disappear. It's wonderful. I love these pens. But sometimes I pull them out and I use them in my crafting, so they come in handy. So how are we going to do this? We're going to come up. Let me put those aside for a second. I'm going to come up on that first hole from the outside. Remember, this is the inside. And I think I'll do a little bit of a knot here just to make sure I don't lose that. And I'll take my first signature, and we'll go through that first hole. And then we're going to come back through on the second hole. Come back through this way. And I think I'm going to put just a little tiny dab of glue down to make sure this doesn't move around while I'm stitching. Just a little bit. And be right about there. And now I'm going to go over top of this ribbon, and I'm using a wax thread for mine. You could use embroidery floss. That would look really pretty too. I just feel like I have enough going on already. Okay, so we're going to go up through that third hole into the center of the signature. So you see how that's sort of caught, I don't know if you can see that, it's sort of caught the ribbon in there. Maybe I'll see if I can zoom in a tiny bit for you. Okay, so now we're on the inside of our signature. We're going to come back out on that fourth one, and I'll tell you these little markings that I made are really helping me to figure out where to go through on the fabric. Pull it through. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to place down a little piece of ribbon. You could use lace. You could use a really pretty piece of paper, whatever you want. And I'm going to go over top of it, and where's my next hole? It's sort of over here somewhere. There it is. And into the center of the signature again. And out one more time. And it doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't all have to line up perfectly. I can tell you my second signature is not going to line up perfectly. I know that already because the holes went a little wonky, and that's okay. To me, that's what Shabby Chic is all about. It's supposed to be shabby. It's not supposed to be perfect. That's what I was having a bit of a hard time at work this week, and my friend at work said, you know, you put too much pressure on yourself and everything doesn't have to be perfect all the time. And she said, you know, perfect is really boring. And I agree with her. Perfect can be really boring. You want things to just be a little off because that's what makes them special. Now I should have mentioned before I started sewing everything in here, the length of my thread is 3 times the height of my book, plus a little extra, because we're going to sew this all in one go, all on one thread. Normally I would have done 3 separate threads, one for each signature, but we're going to do them all on one. And we come out the top, just like that. Whoops. Okay, and I can pull it from the bottom too if I need to tighten things up a little bit. So I'm just going to continue doing that for the other 2 signatures, but this time we'll be coming from the top down. So we're going to go in. See, where is that other hole? Right about there. That is a little wonky. I know I just said it doesn't have to be perfect, but that's a little a little too imperfect. Just gonna go a little bit down. That's better. And then I can start to include this one. So see how the holes, when I did them, they kind of went off to the side. They're not right in the valley, but that's okay. I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to repunch them or anything. I'm just going to make it work. And there's all kinds of fancy stitches you can do if you want to. I'm just doing a very easy straight stitch. Oops. But I am going to try to secure it around this loop it around here so that it goes straight across the top. And I'll come back in to the inside and, well, no, I was gonna knot it inside, but maybe I'll do the knot on the outside maybe. And I'm not doing any special kind of knot. I'm just I'm just trying to make sure that it doesn't slip out. That's all. There we go. There is that one. And I think I'm going to try to get this one to whoops, this one at the bottom here. Okay, there we go. I'll come back out. So it's almost together, but we need to put our covers on. And so this is going to go, and then the ribbon is going to come on the outside. So the first thing to do though is to get this fabric onto the board. And I think what I'm going to do to start with, I'm going to use my stitch witchery, and I'm just going to see if I can iron it on first, because I don't really like when wet glue seeps through the fabric. So this will just at least give me a starting point. I think I'm going to have to use a little bit of glue though, especially on this side. So I'm going to put it down, and there's two layers of fabric on that side, on that close to the spine there, so it should be okay. And I've got it so that my fabric sort of hangs out the edge a little bit. I'm going to put some glue down for my ribbon. Then I'm going to do the same on the front. And what I need to do is go over to the ironing board, and once this glue on the outside is dried, I'm going to take my iron to the fabric side, and it'll melt where I put the stitch witchery on all along the outside edge here. So just give me a second to get all that in place, and then I'll be right back. Okie dokie, so I clamped this so that the cover would dry close to the fabric on the gluey side there, and I ironed down those other parts where I put the fusible tape, and now I think it's all done. There we go. Oh, I did add a little touch of blue chalk paint. This one is faded denim, just around the outside, because I felt like it just needed a little bit of color, and the birds have a little bit of blue in them, so I thought that went nicely. Just add another little layer of texture, and I put a little bit on the birds as well. Very subtle. But that is it. That is my Shabby Chic journal. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and I was a little worried about how it would open, but oops, it opens just fine. It lays nice and flat. And you can see all my handmade papers. Some of them I tried playing. If you go to my video where I showed you how I make papers, I tried to do some inclusions and try adding some dried flowers and bits and pieces and things like that. But you can see how it all lays open nicely, and so it's a really usable journal. It's not something to just sit on a shelf somewhere, but it sure would look pretty when it does. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that that sparked some creativity for you. I know it did for me. I really like how doing these design team projects is forcing me to push things much further than I ever normally would have. I probably would have stopped at just a couple of layers on this journal cover usually, but I'm really thrilled with how it turned out with all of this texture and depth to it. It's just got so much more character to it than I ever would have thought it would. So I'm really happy with that. So have fun with yours. Like I said, visit that link in the description box below if you want to see the original, which is also, I mean, it's really gorgeous. And they don't use the fabric though on the spine. They just use an open spine, and you see all the signature folds here. So go and check that out and see what you think, and let me know down below what you think of this, and if you think you're going to give it a try yourself. So have fun. Thanks very much for coming by today. I really, really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.